intelligent stuff that's been through it since I've been sitting here.
Sure.
Are you on, Cheryl?
Yes, it's all, you can see us. Great, thanks, Jason. We're good to go. Okay. See you.
As determined by Glamorgan Spring Bay Council in April 2017, all ordinary and special meetings of Council are to be audio visually recorded and streamed live. A link is available on the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council website to the YouTube platform, where the public can view the meeting live and watch recordings of previous Council meetings. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and Regulations 33, these video audio files will be retained by Council for at least 6 months and made available for viewing live as well as online within 5 days of the scheduled meeting. The written minutes of a meeting, once confirmed, prevail over the audio-video recording of the meeting. I welcome councillors, staff and members of the public and declare the meeting open at 2:02 p.m. on the 30th of April 2019. 1.1, the Glamorgan Spring Bay Council acknowledges the traditional owners of our region and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Present this evening we have all councillors. We have Daniel Smead, Council's Acting General Manager. We also have Ian Pearce. So Daniel has been Council's Acting General Manager for a number of weeks, and this is Daniel's last day today. Daniel's heading back to his other real job, and Ian will be stepping in effective tomorrow. And we also have Ms Turvey, Council's Executive Officer. So I request elected members indicate whether they have, one, any interest, personally or via a close associate, as defined in section 49 of the Local Government Act 1993, or any conflict as described in Council's Code of Conduct for councillors in any item included in the agenda. Councillor Brini?
I have an interest in item 7.4, Swansea Courthouse maintenance. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Pike?
In item 7.6, Spring Bay sub-branch of the RSL.
Councillor Arnold?
Item 7.6, Spring Bay Sub-Branch, the RSL.
Okay, thank you. If you could just remind me when we get to those items, thank you. Moving on to item 2.1, Ordinary Meeting of Council, March 26th, 2019. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll move the motion, Mayor,
Thank you.
that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held Tuesday 26th of March 2019 be confirmed as a true and correct record.
Thank you. Somebody to second that? Councillor Pike. Any discussion? Hang on. All those for? It's unanimous. Thank you. We have a workshop held on March 25th, 2019. That was a briefing to Council on the Prosser Plains Raw Water Scheme. So if we're happy, I'll just continue on. We can just note each of those items at the end. We have 2.3, a workshop held 26th of March. That was to review Council's draft delegation instrument. 2.4, we had a workshop in Community Connect, April the 9th. That was a general workshop and a Community Connect afterwards at Coles Bay. And we've also had another workshop held April 16th. That was in respect to Drought Communities Program, Council Strategic Plan and the Prosser River Area Working Group. Could I have a motion, please?
Oh, God.
Deputy Mayor.
Oh.
Thank you.
The council notes this information.
Thank you. And Councillor Churchill, all those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. So item 3, under Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures, Regulations 2005, I hereby declare that the council is now acting as a planning authority under the provisions of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 for Section 3 of the agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
Where am I?
I'll move that council now acts as a planning authority.
At
207. Thank you.
Councillor Greenie? All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. So item 3.1, the recommendations found on page 16. Mr Smee, you have an update on this matter?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a slight amendment in Part A of that recommendation, where it says the application for a shared use track, that shared use track should be replaced with the word toilet. The application is actually for a toilet, not a shared use track.
Okay, thank you. So, a motion, please. Councillor Greenie?
I move that pursuant to Section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Glamorgan Spring Bay Interim Planning Scheme 2015, that the application for a toilet within the Freycinet National Park, DA 2019/52, be approved subject to conditions 1 to 4.
Thank you. Somebody, Deputy Mayor Woods, open for discussion.
No.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Under Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2005, I hereby declare that the council is no longer acting as a planning authority under the provisions of Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 for Section 3 of the agenda. A motion, please. Councillor Pye.
The council no longer acts as a planning authority at 1448. Is it?
No, 1409.
Oh, yes, too.
209, please.
209.
Okay, thank you. Somebody to second that?
No.
Councillor Simons. All those in favour? All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Okay, public question time. Mr Jeff Baker. We have a microphone. Jeff, do you need the microphone?
Oh, yeah, that's a question. I'll speak up. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I was hoping you would be able to give us, just on, testing.
Yeah, that's better.
Hoping you could give us an update on where we are currently with the Solus development.
Okay.
As comprehensive as you can make it. Thank you.
That, about that, Mr Baker. We are still looking at where we're at with the Solus and what council's involvement may be on that matter. So we're still reviewing the files. Where the confusion comes in to a point there is council's own website. And I don't have the words in front of me. I didn't know he was going to ask this question, which I didn't need to know. But so on the website, last time I looked, said that council owns that land, owns the golf course part of the land. It's been transferred to council, or some words along those lines. And we need to determine if that's an error on our website or not. So we're still looking into that matter and any commitments we have with Solus.
Okay, can I just ask one other thing regarding that? Now, the council will have the golf course, perhaps, the real estate developments for the lots, are any of those lots being sold off the plan at this stage?
I have no idea in respect to that. That's not council business, what the developers could potentially be doing, you know, in their own
Possibility
time.
that could be the case.
Who knows, that's not a council matter, what a developer would do, you know, in their own time.
Just trying to clarify some rumours, you see.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll be in a position, we're definitely not trying to hide anything. It's just that we need to know as a council, you know, what obligations we have. There hasn't been a decision made by council to accept that land or to build a golf course. So basically, yeah, we need to go, there's information on the website that we need clarified. We're looking at files and we'll be pulling together a report for council as to where we're at and what, you know, what if we've got any commitments.
I don't want to take discussion on this, but Solus uptake of the water, the 200 megalitres of water, that must be integral to the water scheme as it is now. And so we must know that something's going to happen in regard to that 200 megalitres of water.
So I'll finish on this point in that my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that Solus have made a commitment to council. There's an agreement that they will contribute to the water, whether used or not. So, yes, yeah. So my understanding is that's the situation. So we're still working on the other matter of council's commitments and to Solus, and hopefully we'll have further information and an updated webpage. Thank you. Kerry Hanley, would you mind giving that to Kerry, please, Jeff?
I'm not known for needing a microphone.
Thank you, Mayor Wisby. Just a broad question, please, regarding recycling. If the appropriate council person could answer this question. Is paper still acceptable as recycling now that a lot of recycling changes have happened regarding China and so on and so forth? Because I'm informed by the local school at Orford that they are not to recycle paper, yet as one of the many residents here, I am recycling paper, as are many other households. So, point of clarification, please. Do we or don't we?
The last I heard was we were. I haven't received any advice to the contrary in respect to that, but I think we'll need to take that on notice and come back to you to clarify.
Thank you.
Thank you. And 5.1 on page 31. So these are information reports and they go from page 31 to page 62. Are there any questions? Councillor Brini?
I need to find where I'm at. Page 45, the report by the Manager of Works, Tony Pollard. Page 45, sixth paragraph down. A scope of works and design is currently being finalised for the Rebben Road West Shelley Stormwater Extension Project. There was a mention there that work aims to relieve existing flooding issues with the system around the Trocas Court area, which has affected the surrounding properties along West Shelley Road. I was surprised because my experience when with council was with that subdivision, it seemed to have a pretty comprehensive engineering design, including a compensating basin that backed onto West Shelley Road and substantial stormwater design, modern design. And I was concerned that actually it looked as though from there that there was a problem with what I considered to be originally a pretty hefty design. And council is having to now look at that situation. I asked the works manager for any information he may be able to give me in relation to that so that I could bring it to this meeting. He supplied me with a comprehensive report on the flooding that has been taken since the flooding occurred, and I just wanted to thank him for getting that report to me, quite substantial, and also doing it in a prompt manner. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Pike?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Page 62, I think it was Miss Kelly's report. It's just 62, the second paragraph. Research into the establishment of the Pulchella Community Nursery is ongoing and more recent developments currently being explored. I didn't know we were. What is it? Any information on that?
Thanks, Councillor Pike. So I actually had marked that myself, that paragraph. I wasn't going to bring it up today, but I definitely marked it for the Acting General Manager to follow up as to where that's at. That does go back to the previous council,
Right, thank you.
where there was some discussion, but that's going back probably a couple of years now, at least 2 years, if not 3 years. So I had marked that and to speak to the Acting General Manager to get an update because the current council may have different views. So, and there would be an expenditure involved, obviously, in anything like this. So we'll get an update on that.
All right, thank you very much.
Any further questions, Councillor Arnold?
Pages 38, 39 and 40 are the capital budget documents. And there's a number of items on there that has, in the comments, defer, but I can't find any explanation as to why they're being deferred. I don't know whether I missed it in the report. I don't think I did.
38,
Funding
39.
issue, but
The defer, I think, at the Coles Bay meeting, the community Connect session, I think the Fraser-Nay Drive one was only deferred because of the draft Fraser-Nay master plan. It does say that there, but that was because they wanted to see what the final outcome of that plan was. I can't recall the Bicheno.
I'm not expecting you to go through all of them, Mayor. I'm just wondering if we could get an explanation at some time as to why the items are being deferred.
There are extras there than
Yeah,
what we
there's significant
definitely know about. Sure, we can get some further information on those.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on page 53, under the Tribunna Recreation Ground, just wondering when the construction of this is predicted to be finalised.
The ground. So I had a discussion with the Acting General Manager yesterday and with Adrian O'Leary yesterday, the Manager of Works, and again today, and a discussion with Councillor Pike in respect to this. So at this point, then we had to start a meeting, a workshop today, so I ran out of time with Adrian, but basically I think there's around 6 weeks' work left there, minimum 6 weeks, to finalise that build and to make the area safe. I advised Mr O'Leary that Tribunna Football Club's first home game will be the 26th of May, and there's not 6 weeks between now and then. And the fact that they had been on away games for around 6 games, and then they're coming home for 6 games, and the importance of those funds for the club and for the community. So I think what I was going to suggest would be that some of the executive meet with Mr O'Leary and myself and possibly yourself to see what can be done, what areas can be made safe, what areas of the building could be used to allow the football club to use the facility, during that period.
Yep.
And I think there is a pathway forward to do that, and no games will be lost to a home game.
That's good to hear. Thank you. I have no other questions. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to find what was the last page. 62. Okay, so could I have a motion as recommendation, please?
The management reports are received and noted.
Councillor Pike, second. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Page 63 is item 6, section 24, committees and the minutes. So item 6.1 is the Tribunna Community Hall Committee minutes, and you will see there on page 68 is a motion for council's consideration, box around it. So maybe, thank you.
So I'll move that the Tribunna Community Hall requests that council formulates and implements a policy of acceptable practices and requirements for users of the council hall facilities.
Okay, could I just ask a question? Are you saying that council agrees to formulate? Agrees, yep.
Yeah, the
yes.
council agrees to formulate.
Thank you. Could I have somebody to second that motion, please? Councillor Pike? So it's open for discussion. I will just say on this one that the purpose of this is just to get one set of simple rules that can be, approved throughout all the halls in the whole municipality. Just processed basically. And I don't think there's anything else in there that's needs, it's all, the rest of it's for information. So, okay, so all those, so what we do here is we receive, don't we? Do we normally receive these? We don't, don't we?
You've got a live motion at the moment. We need to vote on.
But after that, we normally receive, don't
Yes,
we?
we do.
I think you
Oh,
should
at
have
the front.
received them before.
Received them before, maybe.
I don't think to receive before, because we're receiving a motion then. We need to address the motion pulled from the document, I would think, and then receive the balance, we're receiving the whole document. Okay, so all those in favour? It's unanimous, and that was for the motion, of course, pulled from the document, and now we have a recommendation that council receives and notes. So could I have one of those, Councillor Browning?
Council receive and note the minutes of any section 24 committee presented.
Councillor Browning, would you like to change it to the Tribunna Community Hall Committee meeting minutes?
Yep. That council receive and notes the minutes from the Tribunna Community Hall Committee meeting on the 18th of February 2019.
Thanks, it makes it clearer, that's all. Somebody to second that, please. Councillor Brini, all those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to 6.2. Again, there is a motion that council needs to consider from this document on page 71 and a further one on page 72. And Mr Smee checked with Mr Pollard today, Council's Works Manager, in respect to the bollards, and to ensure that there was no issue with the bollards being placed in that area from council staff perspective. There was no issue on either of these motions. So could I have a motion, please, from council in respect to item 5 and the second boxed item, which are both motions for council?
Do you need them read separately, Mayor?
Preferably.
I'll move that in addition to the motion regarding temporary bollards on the 24th of September 2018, the bollards are required to be collapsible and permanent, within the chevroning adjacent to the ferry terminal, road marking signage stating loading and unloading be installed in accordance with the design drawing.
Somebody to second?
That motion,
Seconded.
councillor Pike. No discussion, all those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. And the second on page 72, which is under item 5, councillor Browning.
I move that council work together with MAST to investigate a collection point at each of the 4 waste management centres for the collection of EPIRBs and expired flares.
Somebody to second that, councillor Simons. Any discussion, all those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Now if we could receive the minutes, please.
I move that council receives the minutes of the Marina Infrastructure Committee on Monday the 25th of February 2019.
Thank you. Somebody to second. Councillor Breeny. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. So item 7.1. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Arnold.
I'll move that in accordance with section 22 of the Local Government Act 1993, council approves the delegations contained in the attached table to the General Manager or a person acting in that position, and the policy be converted to an instrument of delegation. And B, council authorises the Mayor to sign the instrument delegation on behalf of council under the common seal. C, council authorises the General Manager to sub-delegate certain functions and powers that have been delegated to the General Manager by council.
Councillor Browning. Open for discussion.
I don't have any problems.
No discussion? So I'll just say that these have been workshopped. For a whole afternoon.
We've already discussed them.
Yes. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Item 7.2 on page 87. It's minutes of the audit panel meeting. Could I have a motion, please, Councillor Arnold?
I'll move that minutes of the audit panel meeting held on the 27th of March 2019 be received and noted, in particular in relation to the summary of key recommendations from the meeting on page 91. Sorry, taking particular note of the summary of key recommendations from the meeting on page 91.
Councillor Breeny, second that. Open for discussion.
Thank you. I'd just like to say thank you, publicly acknowledge Mr Derbyshire, who came and had a workshop with us today and explained and went through what the audit panel does for Glamorgan Spring Bay Council.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
So I'll put that motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Item 7.3 on page 92, Australian Coastal Councils Association. Could I have a recommendation, please? Councillor Breeny.
I recommend that council endorses the nomination of Councillor Browning for the Australian Coastal Councils Association Committee of Management.
Could I have somebody second that motion, please? Councillor Arnold. We're open for discussion, but firstly, Councillor Browning, are you interested?
Yes, I am interested.
And I think it'd be appropriate if there's anybody else here who has an interest, you could probably mention that. It's the time to mention it if you wish to mention it. No? Great. Any discussion? No? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous.
Councillor Brown.
Oh, actually, I probably pushed you into voting then, councillor Browning. Do you wish to not vote on that and just not vote because it's about you? Yes, okay.
Really?
Expression of interest.
Does councillor Browning need to leave the room to vote on that?
Yeah, as with all these things, the decision is one for the councillor to make, whether they have a conflict of interest or not.
Yep.
Not voting will be recorded as a negative vote, which would seem to be a bit odd under the circumstances. My advice, as always, is if in doubt,
Yeah.
opt out.
Do you want to leave the room while we vote?
Okay.
Yes. Don't go far. Okay. All those in favour? It's 7. Councillor Breeny, Pike, Wisby, Woods, Arnold, Simons and Churchill. And councillor Browning left the room and returned to the room. Congratulations, councillor Browning.
Surprise.
So it was still unanimous.
Oh, 7 out of 7, yes. Item 7.4, so we've got councillor Brenny is now leaving the room. Okay, so this is in relation to the Swansea Courthouse maintenance. The page 94 is a recommendation. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Browning.
I move that the Swansea Courthouse Management Committee be advised that council is unable to provide funds for the sanding and sealing of one of the front rooms in the building this financial year, and the request be included for consideration in the budget preparation process for 2019-20.
Thank you. Somebody to second that motion? Councillor Simons. Open for discussion.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory, sorry.
You-
I think, I was just going to say it's pretty self-explanatory. It's very, very clear there, and it explains why, so I think it's clear. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Madam Mayor, this is a really worthwhile project to continue with if and when we possibly can. I see this building as being very important to the community and a valuable historical asset to us, as well as I am aware that there are liabilities associated with it. Thank you.
Okay, so put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Thank you, councillor Breeny. The recommendation as put was carried unanimous. 7.5, the Freycinet Association Incorporated. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Browning?
I move that the grant application from the Freycinet Association Incorporated, FIA, for the grant of $1,000 towards the cost of producing the local community newsletter be refused.
Somebody to second that, please? Browning. Open for discussion.
Mayor, I understand that at the November 2018 FAI meeting, you personally made the statement that there might be funding from GSBC to pay for Susan. So Susan is the lady that does this work. Given the grant, this particular grant process is not eligible for wages.
Yeah.
Do you have anything in mind as to what other fund we might be able to use? Because as has been stated at the beginning of this letter, whilst there is no doubt that newsletter is an excellent form of communication for the Coles Bay, it really should be supported by council, I think.
It should be.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
it should be, okay.
Yep.
So the, that misquote, number one. Number two,
I got it from the minutes, the actual minutes
Yep.
of that meeting.
yeah, but it's in context too. So the context of that going back 6 months was that the members of the FAI put in quite a high membership fee, if I put my brain back 6 months. They put in a high membership fee compared to other chambers. I think it's several, is it $300 or something? And I remember Tribunna Orf, it's like $50. And they do fund an awful lot of their own, promotion of business and so forth. They don't have a visitor information centre, unlike Bicheno, Swansea, Tribunna. They fund an awful lot out of that, and the reason why their fees will be high is because of what they self-fund and because of what they pay Susan, who's their admin person. So my thing was about working with the FAI to see if there's any way that the council could assist in providing some assistance to that business group along the lines of, we have a visitor information centre here that we staff. So what is it that they miss out on, in respect to what we provide to other areas? What do they miss out on? So it was about having that conversation to see if there's any way that we could assist.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
that. Thank you for that explanation. I just go back to the point that what I quoted here is actually from the minutes of the FAI meeting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Thank you for.
But it just
thank you
needs
for
to be in
clarification.
context of,
Thank you.
paying for somebody. Yeah, it was because of what we do everywhere else.
Sure.
But, so just clarifying there that the $1,000 towards the cost of producing the newsletter, you're supportive of council paying for that, is that what you?
No. What I'm asking, the question I'm asking is
Yep.
that in the minutes of the FAI meeting,
Yep.
it's written that you stated that there could be funding from GSBC. And given that this grant is not eligible for wages,
Yep.
my question is, what funding
Oh.
do you think could be available?
Okay, so it was about a conversation, yes.
Exactly.
Yes, it's about funding in respect of,
Yes,
visitors.
exactly.
Yes.
Thank
yep,
you.
Yep, good. Councillor
Madam
Simons.
Mayor, would there be any opportunity maybe for council to do some in-kind work for them, as in the printing? Could it be done at the council office or
I
by
know
way
there's
of
some,
contra?
I know there's some, there is an amount in the past that's been offered where, for community groups, I think we've done some free printing, but I think it's one of those conversations, not around at the council
Yep.
table, you know what I mean? It's about looking at what we're currently doing. I don't know what we're currently doing in respect to other groups, and there's probably something we need to nut out as a council again to make sure it's consistent across the whole municipality of what we are doing. If we're offering free photocopying, maybe we could do something. But I don't know the answer, and it's probably not the best place to.
If I may, Madam Mayor, perhaps an alternative might be another grant application from the FAI in relation to funding the paper and ink for their, that might work.
Yeah, I think personally, I see it really as being, I think it's a discussion that we have to see what we're doing throughout the rest of the municipality, because if we fund the ink for these people, we probably should fund it for the Great Oyster Bay News too. And we just head down a whole world of grief. But I think we do need to get some consistency throughout the whole municipality on what we do in one town. We should sort of follow through in another wherever possible. So I think it's a discussion we definitely need to have.
Mayor, I'd just like to make clear that my support of the recommendation to refuse is only based on the fact that this would set a precedent. The fact of supporting these types of newsletters is critical within this municipality, and if we can find a way to do it, I'd recommend we do everything to try to support it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Westby, the two questions that came into mind when I read this application, was that how many community newspapers were there, and it's the Great Oyster Bay News, I think, there. But is this a one-off or is this an ongoing?
No.
That's the other thing that worried me, because if they wanted 1,000 this year, but they want 1,000 next year and thereafter, that's the question that was raised in my mind.
Has a community news, Coles Bay has this one, and
Right.
so obviously the
And
Swansea
the Great Oyster
community,
Bay
yeah,
has
which
this,
sort of goes
right.
out broader again.
Okay.
But they, I think the Coles Bay one is monthly, is it?
Yeah.
Monthly?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
yeah, so the thing is, the Great Oyster Bay News is self-funded through advertising, and people who advertise pay for that advertising.
Mhm.
Yep, I think.
Yes. No. Thank you.
Okay, so if that's all done, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Three, four, yeah. Do you want me to count? Okay, item 7.6, Councillor Pike and Councillor Arnold have left the room.
I move that council approves a grant of $500 to the Spring Bay RSL Sub-Branch Incorporated towards the cost of Anzac Day activities.
Councillor Churchill, the second. Open for discussion. No discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Unanimous, yes. Yes, unanimous, yes.
Thank you. Yes.
So now, we're on to item 8.1, fire at Dolphin Sands. We have a motion there moved by Councillor Cheryl Arnold. Councillor Arnold, would you like to read your motion, please?
Would indeed, thank you. I move, one, that council undertake risk assessments as required in the Dolphin Sands Road area and engages with the Dolphin Sands Ratepayers Association in relation to clearing fire verges. And two, that in consideration of recent statements by former chief fire officers that Tasmania no longer has a fire service season per se, council engages with the Tasmanian Fire Service and communities across the municipal area to establish strategies to manage fire threats.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Woods. Okay, open for discussion, Councillor.
Could I speak to my
Oh,
motion?
sorry.
Mayor, please?
Sure.
Sure, it's very short. We need to learn some important lessons from the Dolphin Sands fire, because in reality, that community was extremely lucky in what was actually lost, probably occasioned by good preparation by property owners and some extremely skilled firefighters. What the Dolphin Sands fire highlighted for me is that there are other areas in our municipal area that could well be in a very similar situation. One area that comes to mind is Barton Avenue in Tribunna. It's very similar to Dolphin Sands in that it is essentially one way in, one way out. That could create a very dangerous situation depending on where the fire broke out. We have the opportunity to establish strong strategies to manage fire threats across the municipal area for some peace of mind of our residents, and I commend the motion to council.
I don't have anything against the motion, Madam Mayor, but I guess we already have a whole lot of strategies and emails, and we've got meetings arranged. I was just wondering why we needed a motion.
If I may, Mayor, I just wanted to get it into the council processes, Councillor Pike. That was the only reason to do this particular motion. Quite often things like this can come out of a tragedy or devastation or whatever, but it gets lost in the system. So my thoughts were, if I put it into a motion, it's there, it's in the motion tracking document, and we can work on it over the coming months before the next fire season.
Councillor Brenny?
Yeah,
Thank you, Councillor Arnold.
I've been made aware that the Dolphin Sands Ratepayers Association only represents a certain percentage of Dolphin Sands and Cambria residents. I would be happy with this motion if it, instead of reading Dolphin Sands Ratepayers Association, that the engagement was broadened to the Dolphin Sands community, if you like, to make sure that all the residents are handled. And I was wondering whether or not the original motion could be amended just to read the Dolphin Sands community rather than Ratepayers Association.
I have absolutely no problem with that at all, councillor Bruni.
And Deputy Mayor Woods.
Oh, no, I have no problem at all. Thank you.
Councillor Ronan? Through the Mayor, can I just ask Councillor Arnold, when we had the fires on Dolphin Sands back in 2009, when we lost homes, and then we had the fire in 2014, did council do any risk assessment or anything after those fires?
Not something I recall, councillor Browning, I'm sorry, I don't know. So I guess that probably then carries on to councillor Pike's question in that this is an opportunity to actually initiate something like that, because I don't recall that anything was done. It may well have been, but I don't know.
So on the 12th, the fire was on the 9th of April. On the 10th of April, I was up there with the fire chief, I think that is the name of...
Watley?
Yes, Steve, yeah. So I went up there the next day, went up in the helicopter, took photos to show people how the fire went around houses, and it was pretty remarkable how well the people, obviously some had maintained their properties, but also the great work by our volunteers and our people in the emergency services. So that was the day after. So I spoke to Steve, wasn't it? The following day after that, and sent an email to Mr. Smee, and it listed all the people I said I was just talking with Steve Walkley of Tas Fire about having a meeting with Dolphin Sands residents and ratepayers post the fire. Some suggestions are to provide information on appropriate plantings, land clearing, tidying up to reduce risk, fire management, free removal of rubbish that was burnt, etc. Steve has suggested the council consider putting in a further 2 by 20,000 litre steel water tanks on Dolphin Sands Road. I spoke about Gary Stoward, who's one of the volunteers up there, and that council, the ones that are there that aren't that old, the water tanks, that council assisted with funding of these tanks. That Gary Stoward suggested the coastal wattle is cut back to the council verge to property boundary, possibly some other plants or shrubs too. And that Steve has advised he is happy to come to the meeting and answer questions, provide information, and Tas Fire Service have brochures on plant choices. And I said, and I think council's NRM have some too. So also spoke about a person by the name of Leslie King, who's a community development officer, who would possibly also come along and speak with community. So it's basically a Tas Fire Service debrief, and where other people like the local firefighters would come along, would have details on plant selections and so forth. So that was done within 2 days of the fire. Then that was sent out to all councillors on the 12th of April, which was the Friday. So the fire was on the Tuesday, and I wrote, "Dear Council, please see email thread below. We can discuss this on Tuesday." This was on the Friday. The fire was on the Tuesday. So within a week, we're sitting around a table discussing, organising a meeting, just as I had said. That meeting has been advertised in the Great Oyster Bay News and other publications, and we're having that meeting on Saturday, the 4th, at 10 a.m. from memory, in Swansea. So I would actually prefer to go to that meeting and speak to the people in the know in this area before committing to clearing or doing anything. I was also speaking with a council staff member yesterday and was talking about the funding for road improvements on Dolphin Sands and the concern of cutting the bushes back and what that would do to the stabilisation of the sand dunes, because apparently since the bushes have grown, it stops some of the sand from flying over the road in Dolphin Sand because it holds the sand back. So it's a complex matter. So I think we're really moving ahead really well on this, and I think some strategies will come out of this. And the conversations are already being had, so I just think it's premature to jump into a motion when all that stuff is already going on. We discussed it at a workshop, we'd formalised it, we'd organised meetings, and so I just think we're already doing it.
If I may, Madam Mayor, this is not about the Dolphin Sands fire in total. This is about learning lessons from the Dolphin Sands fire, and this is about placing on council's books the opportunity to actually do some strategies. Now, you've started the strategy by talking to the community on the 4th of May, but let's formalise that and say it will continue over the coming months with other communities as well.
So how do you propose, so we engage with Tas Fire
Well, it's just saying
Service?
engages with the Dolphin Sands, what we changed it to the Dolphin Sands community. I mean, at the end of the day, that's going to happen on the 4th of May, but it can continue. And then the next part of the motion is simply just to ensure that council looks at other areas, as I've cited, Barton Avenue, which in some parts of Barton Avenue, I believe there are some quite significant concerns around the fire threat in Barton Avenue. So,
So in your 20 years on council, have we done this before? I know we've got fire plans throughout the whole municipality, they're already in place. So are you looking to update all our plans, or what sort of engagement is that, what you're looking at doing, which will probably require a significant amount of funding in the budget?
it may well, and why then couldn't this be placed in the budget discussions?
Yeah, it could be, which was going to be happening next month
Exactly.
anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's what I thought would come out of the meeting in Swansea.
Yep.
If we need to formalise anything, I would have thought that would come out on Saturday. And then that would be something that would be discussed the following month with council, as to if there needs to be a financial contribution by council.
But again, I come back to the point. It's about a broader strategy for our whole municipal area by learning lessons from the Dolphin Sands fire. So it's about a broader strategy. And if that means updating fire plans or whatever that we have, then so be it. And we look at those in a budgeting process. That's all that is all this motion is about.
It actually says establish strategies. I'd actually like to learn a bit more from the fire people. Like, we're committing to establishing strategies. We're establishing strategies. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what I'm committing to there.
All this says, if you read it, Mayor, it says, council engages with the Tasmanian Fire Service and communities across the municipal area to establish strategies.
Yeah, that's what it
So we're
said.
going to start that engagement on the 4th of May with Dolphin Sands. This motion is just continuing it across the municipal area over coming months. That's all I'm trying to achieve with this motion.
Yeah, but my concern is we've got sorry, excuse me. My concern is I really don't know what it means. I don't know what the cost is going to be. You know what I mean? I just don't know. We establish strategies, we have strategies, maybe we review our strategies, I don't know. But I think we are starting on Saturday anyway, we're starting this process, and I think we'll learn a lot from that and go forward with some strategies from that. So, as I don't really understand what ramifications is or what this is going to have on the council and for cost and so forth, I'd rather get through Saturday and then have a debrief with council to see what we can do as a council going forward. So, would you like to finish as the mover? No.
I can't say any more. You've argued against the decision, so against the motion. I can't say anything more than this is just simply to try and start a process. That's all it is. And that process may well be putting something in the budget, it's starting the engagement with Tas Fire Service. That's all it is. It's just commencing a process.
Okay, so.
I was just thinking,
Yeah.
thank you.
Have you
Sorry.
finalised the?
Pardon?
You've finalised? Yeah, we're probably
Oh, I think that-
finalised now,
right.
councillor Pike.
Thank you.
Okay, so all those in favour? Councillor Simons, Arnold, Deputy Mayor Woods, Councillor Pike, all those against? Councillor Breedy, Browning, Churchill and Wisby, motion's lost. Okay, motion tracking document. Could I have a motion, please? It's on page 112. Councillor Browning?
I move that council receive and note the information contained within the motion tracking document.
Somebody to second that? Councillor Simons? Open for discussion or any questions that you may have? No? Okay, I'll move the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Questions without notice, so page 110, item 10. Councillor Arnold?
I have two parts to this. My first part is not really a question, rather it's a, I'd like to suggest a vote of thanks to Mr Daniel Smee for stepping into the role of Acting General Manager, and to Kingborough Council for their support of having Mr Smee here.
And maybe we could send a letter.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, we'll send a letter to the General Manager, Mr Arnold, and yes, we do.
I think
Thank you,
Mr
Daniel.
Smee needs to be congratulated on the professional manner in which he's undertaken the role.
Yeah.
Yes.
My second question, and this is a question, to you, Mayor. At the Freycinet Action Network meeting on Easter Monday, you made a statement that council is responsible for wastewater under Section 200 of the Local Government Act. I don't argue that we have responsibilities under the Environmental Management and Pollution Control Act and Public Health, and Section 20A of the Local Government Act does allow the General Manager to authorise a person to enter land for a specific purpose. I'm not totally sure that that does give blanket approval to for us to enter properties, and I'm just wondering how you would propose that process is undertaken to do those audits of those wastewater treatments.
Yeah, so the it is a complex matter. It's one that we need to address. We can't have sewage running down streets.
Absolutely.
We've moved past that, you know, in Tasmania and Australia quite some years ago. So it's not Taswater's responsibility. It is council's, always has been. I've had discussions with the CEO of Taswater about it. He's also having discussions with the Chief Engagement Officer, or maybe the media person, in respect to the matter. It is complex, particularly as the Taswater will have their feasibility plan completed by September. And we may need to, well, I think we will need to act between now and September. There has been some matters that have been acted upon already, and we've received some confidential information on those matters of concern. The complexity here is, from the information I've received, people can contain their wastewater problems on their own property with modern technology, even with the difficult terrain up there, which is the granite. However, those systems would cost somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000. So, if their system is is no longer up to scratch, and council goes along and says, well, you know, you need to put in a $15,000 system, and then you know, in 5 years' time, Taswater come along and say, well, you know, we've got an 80% vote in this town to run sewerage through the place. What happens to the $15,000 you've just spent in recent times? So it is a very complex matter, and I've had a discussion with Mr. Smee, and I think I've actually had a discussion with Mr. Pearce about it and the complexities of it.
It's not, my question is not around the complexities of that. My question is around how do we get access to people's properties? And that's a question you probably need to take on notice.
Well, I think we need to go through the process. It's not necessarily just, the complexity is not about accessing people's property. The complexity is about the whole thing, how complex the whole thing is, and you throw Taswater amongst it and potential sewerage plant going through the place. So the Taswater have been very kind to offer any assistance that we need in sort of looking at a proposal on how we would do this and when we would do it, to minimise stress on the people but also address the problem. So, yeah, it is what it is. It's complex and it's not going to be nice.
I do have my second question. Again, this reverts to the Dolphin Sands fire. Could you please tell me how the site for the news broadcast was chosen? That's you were shown on the news the next day in front of some burnt property. If the property was owned by a non-resident, it's conceivable that the news report may have been the first the property owner learnt of the devastation. Did council receive permission from the landowner to utilise the destruction of their property as the backdrop? If not, then in my view it was quite disrespectful and distasteful.
Okay, so it's interesting. It's the first time you brought this up, Councillor Arnold. I was driven around by by Steve Walkley in his vehicle. I was invited to go along and see for the devastation, and Steve had the ABC people in the vehicle, and the purpose of them coming in with us was to also take video. So, yeah, it wasn't me driving the car, it was Steve driving the car, and I would assume that Steve had access to that area. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question which doesn't give me any joy in asking, I'm afraid. It's been bothering me, but exempt. Angela, you're exempt from this, and so are you, Mr. Pearce. But this applies to everybody else around this table. Since the 9th of April, we've had many workshops and closed sessions of council that have been confidential items. But I'm tired now of going around this town and getting questioned on content of those confidential meetings. Now, I congratulated you all. It upsets me because I was selling badges at the RSL, and everybody was selling badges. Oh, I heard this. Oh, I heard that. I can't defend. This is confidential information. We all took an oath as councillors, and you were in those meetings. That's why I have to include you in this, Daniel. I apologise. I'm sorry for that. However, would somebody tell me why, if you want to own up, why are you doing it? How? Why? That's what I wanted to. That's my question. Sorry. I'm getting really angry and frustrated with it. The breach of privacy confidentiality.
Unfortunately, Councillor Pine, I've heard back some also, and yeah, it is disappointing. I don't know. I don't really know how to answer you because I become upset too, and so I don't know if there's anyone who wishes to ask a question or
If I may, Mayor, I haven't heard anything, and like what is discussed in confidential stays in confidential.
I agree.
And possibly what's happening is the ever so wonderful rumour mill gains some wheels and some legs and puts us in a very, very sticky situation. And, I'm sorry that this is upsetting to you, Councillor Pike, and everyone around the table, but as far as I'm concerned, I haven't heard anything.
May I give an example, please, without mentioning names and without mentioning anything at all of the community? One of the incidences was about an internal email on our server. Now, how did that get out into the community? And the person knew the wording. Now, tell me. It's, you know, it's...
Sorry, I have no idea.
No. Yeah, and nobody has idea, but it's out there.
Okay. Any,
And we're going into confidential item in the number 11. Why not have it as open? I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, excuse me for a minute.
I can understand why councillor Pike is upset. It is upsetting when you take it, you know, the confidentiality really serious, and it is sad. And yes, there's a rumour mill going on, and traditionally has, but when you actually hear back some facts, the fact is, yeah,
Something's happened.
something's happened. So, okay, any further questions without notice? Okay, we are going into a confidential item now. So I thank everyone for attending this quite short meeting, and I declare the meeting closed to the public in order to approve minutes from the special meeting of council held in closed session on April 17,
Oh, yeah, sorry, beg your pardon.
2019. And under Regulation 34 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures, Regulation 2015, Statutory Rules 2015, Number 38, Regulation 34.6. Oh, at the next closed meeting, the minutes of a closed meeting, after any necessary correction, are to be confirmed as a true and correct record by the council or council committee and signed by the chairperson of the closed committee. Oh, golly gosh, can I have a recommendation?
I'll move that council moves into closed session at 3:08 p.m.
Councillor Breeny, all those in favour, we will move in now. So we'll just adjourn now for 5 minutes at 3.